Hey guys, Claudia here from Accelerate Off-Grid Touring. Today we have finally released all of our towing products for the Prado 250 series. So this includes an isolated Anderson plug, ESC for electric stability control feed, and also a full plug-and-play TowPro kit for your Prado 250 series. So Jack's going to run you through how to install it, so stay tuned and follow along.
Hey guys, it's Jack from Accelerate Off-Grid Touring, and today I'm going to show you how to install an isolated Anderson plug, an ESC Anderson plug, and a TowPro in the new 250 series Prado.
Amazing!
Whenever you're ready. Alrighty, so what you'll need for this install is preferably a guard cover, so you don't scratch your nice beautiful guard on your Prado here. So I'll chuck this one on, like so. You'll need a couple of sockets, so you'll need a 12mm, an 8mm, and a 10mm. As well as an extension and the actual ratchet itself. So we'll set those ones aside. You'll also need just a Phillips head screwdriver and a 7mm socket, 7mm spanner. And you also need some form of cutter, so either in the form of flush cutters to get your zip ties nice and flush, or just a set of side cutters. First up, we need to remove the battery and the cabling across the top here. So that's all of this bit we have to pull out. So there's 3 bolts at the front here and 1 nut up the top there. So we'll take these 3 out. Alrighty, so once you've got those bolts out, there'll be a cross strap here and a brace in the bottom. So these will just pull out like so. So you got the hold down to the battery out, we can then get these terminals off the top of the battery off. Alrighty, so once you've got all the wires out, we can then lift the battery out of the tray. So once your battery's out, we'll just remove these 3 bolts and these 2 bolts here. Alrighty guys, so in your kit, what you'll receive is the earth and ignition harness for the relay itself. You will receive a 6BNS roller cable like so to run to the rear. You'll receive our TowPro harness, which all plugs and plays into factory looms. And you'll also receive an ESC harness to run to the back as well. So once you've got everything out, you can start grabbing your cables. So we'll start with the ignition Anderson plug harness first. So you want to run it down underneath that center bracket there, and then tucked underneath that brake line, just like so, and it will run down to the bottom underneath there. So you just want to keep feeding your way through until it gets to the bottom. And if you opted for ESC as well, we'll run the ESC at the same time as our ignition Anderson plug harness. So again, under that center bracket like so, and then tucked underneath this hard metal line just here. We can go. Alrighty, and because we're filming this in the workshop, we're just going to use the hoist. You don't have to, you can do it on the ground as well. Alright, so we're down underneath the vehicle at the moment. You can see our cables kind of coming out on this side of the chassis. So what we want to do is we want to feed them back over this side of the chassis here. So in this little gap, and over this body mount just there. So we want to feed them back and over like so, and then up and over that body mount, and it will come out on that side. So we'll do the same for our ignition harness. So like so, and then up and over. Okay guys, so you'll notice how there is 2 bits of heat shrink on each cable. So we want these to kind of just sit roughly about there or so. As this is all cut to length, it will only go to one spot. So what we want to do is just run our cables down like so, and using this earth point here, same with our ESC earth, running it just onto those two like so. So once we've connected our earths to our earth point here, we can then start cable tying our cables to the rear. So what we want to do, so now we can start cable tying everything to the rear. So once we're back under the car after cable tying, we can keep cable tying the way through. So you notice there's a couple of hard lines up here. We can cable tie our cable to those hard lines there, and then keep cable tying towards the back. Okay, so we started running our cable towards the back. We're just going to go through and start cutting off our zip ties. Alright, so just before this body mount, there's a nice open space in here. So what you want to do is just grab your cable and just poke it up and through that open area. And you can get your hand up in this little spot here, feel around for the cable, and just pull it the rest of the way through. Alrighty, so now we're over this side. It may look like we're running super close to the exhaust, but what we're going to do is behind this little bit of heat shield here is where we're going to run our cables. So you'll see a factory loom running across there. We're going to do the exact same and run behind this piece of metal just here. Alrighty, so once we've run it tucked in behind up there, we can start cable tying from this side and working our way across around to the top of this spring here, and then across this cross member that holds the rear tyre in place. Alrighty, so once you're past the rear spring and rear axle and up over this cross member here, you'll see a loom that pretty much runs from this cross member right around over the top of this cross member here and around over the top of the spare tyre into the trailer plug. So what we're going to do is we're just going to follow that with our remaining length on our cables here and cable tie it all the way to the trailer plug. Alrighty, so once you run it down around following that cable, we're now at the trailer plug. Now you might think this is a lot of length, but we want to run it up here using this loom here. So we kind of want to tuck it back on itself and cable tie up along there, and we'll now only have that much cable coming out, just enough for it to sit on our trailer bracket like so. So once we're at the back here with our two little tails, this is our universal trailer plug bracket. So it will pretty much take out these two bolts and it will sit on top just like so. Gives a spot to mount our two Anderson plugs stacked on top of each other there and there. Spot for airbags, spot for safety Dave, Wazza, and a clip for your brake safe electric brakes as well. Alright, so this is all installed. We've got our 7-pin trailer plug there and our two endos stacked on top of each other using those two bolt holes at the top there. Alrighty, so once we're back up the front, what we're going to do is to grab our relay and put our two blade terminals on the relay like so. And then what we're going to do is in your kit, you'll have two kind of positive cables by themselves, a long and a short. We're going to grab the long one, which has two 6mm terminals on it like so. On the base of our relay here, you'll see a pin 30. So that pin 30 is our DC in. So we'll chuck that one on there like so, facing out towards the front of the relay like this. On our other side, we have a pin 87. This is our output on our relay. So what we're going to do is take the nut off that one. Our 6BNS positive cable will then go on to that pin 87. And we'll chuck that back on and do it. Once everything's connected to our relay, we can then mount our relay onto our guard using a threaded hole just next to the earth strap there. Alrighty, once everything's mounted here, we can then chuck our earth onto our earth strap here. Alrighty, so once we've run everything to the front and mounted our relay, you'll notice there's a long ignition cable here. So what we're going to do is run it behind this fuel filter here, cable tying to the fuse box itself on that leg there, and cable tongue across onto this main loom, up and around, and then once you get to there, we'll then pull this apart and run it through that retainer clip there. Alrighty, so next up what we want to do is just take off this cable retainer here. So all we have to do is there's a couple little clips there and there. So if you get a little flat blade screwdriver or something along those lines and just push the two little clips away, it will then be able to lift up like so. There's 1, 2, 3 clips there. So you just get your flat blade screwdriver underneath there, pry it up a little bit, and then this should come apart like so. So now with our ignition cable, we can just rest it in the top like that, find which way this sits on there, run a cable down and through, and close it on top of the cable, just like that. And it can slot it back into there, and our cable's safely into our fuse box. Now, finding the fuse in this fuse box is really, really simple. There's 2 blank slots here. So these are not used for anything on the 250 series Prado, only aftermarket accessories. So on our fuse tap, there's a hot and cold side. So the hot side is this pin here, which puts power to both these 2 fuse holders here. So we're going to use this top one here. So I'll put just a 5 amp low profile fuse in there. And you'll see on the inside of here, there's only one bit with a bit of silver kind of conductor there. So what we're going to do is plug our hot side into that one, just next to the 30 amp fuse there, and push it all the way in, just like so. And cable tie the rest of the length just around in onto itself in the fuse box. Alrighty, once we've mounted everything, got our ignition, got our earth, and everything's all buttoned up, we can then put our battery back into our battery holder. Got our tray back in. What we're going to do is mount our fuse holder bracket here. So on the battery tray, there is a bolt hole here that we're just going to use a M6 bolt in, as well as just a MIDI fuse holder bracket. So it's just going to bolt on there like so. Now there's 2 variations to this. So if you choose a ISO Ando, some plug and an ESC, you'll have a twin MIDI fuse holder, which will just sit on there like so. Whereas if you just choose an isolated Anderson plug or just a normal ESC plug, we'll just use a single MIDI fuse like here. But for demonstration on this video, we've installed an isolated Anderson plug and an ESC. So we're going to use a twin MIDI fuse holder just like this. Our fuse holder mounted up, we can now put our battery back in our tray. Alrighty, once our battery's back in, we can connect our positive and our negative cables. So you always connect your positive first. Alrighty, so now once we've got the battery back in, we can grab our short positive cable and go to just either one of these sides on the twin MIDI fuse holder here. Or if it's just a single MIDI fuse holder, nice and easy, just on the other side of the fuse. Alrighty, so once everything's back in, everything's nice and tight, we can then put our cover back on our positive side of the battery, just like so. So now we've finished everything under the bonnet, we can now move on to our TowPro. So we've made this as simple as we can with 3 plug and play. So if you hop onto the driver's side of the vehicle, all we'll need to do is pop off this panel here, and these 2 panels here. Alrighty, once you have this panel here off, there's a 10mm bolt holding this bit of plastic in. So if you just undo that one, this panel will just pop down and give you a little bit more room to play with. So next up, we can grab our plug and play harness. So all we need to do is there is a connector at the top here that has a black, a red and a black. There will be a push tab on the side, just that one right there. So you can push that down and pull out the plug. We grab our female side to that plug it into there. We grab our male side, plug that one into there. And then there is another plug just down the bottom next to a yellow one which has one blue wire in it. We can unplug that one, grab our blue wire here, there is a little notch in the top that needs to be facing upwards. So that little notch there, facing upwards to the plug, and it can just plug in like so. So it will just plug in like that. It will make a nice click noise, knowing that the retainer clip has clipped into that plug, and then we can plug that back in down there. Now after that, all we need to do is mount our TowPro unit. So with our TowPro unit, we have one of our Accelerate little L brackets here. And all we need to do is coming from the front is feed it down like so. There will be an M6 bolt just here. We've removed it to make our life a little bit easier for the video. So once the TowPro unit's slotted in behind the dash there, we can then run this up in through here, just like so. And then we can plug it into our TowPro unit in behind here. So you'll see a 4-pin connector on the back of the TowPro unit. So once we've mounted our TowPro unit and run our little Molex cable for our remote, we can then mount our remote on to the little switch blank. So all you need to do, this is just an M12 plastic nut which mounts onto the switch and the switch blank. So all we need to do is, I always like to set it back to 0 and put 0 on our dial up the top. So we always know that that's going to be 0. Put it in the middle. And then all we need to do with these switch blanks is just push it from the front, just like so. Keep pushing until it makes a click. Give a little bit of a wiggle just on the back side to make sure it's not going to fall out. Little white connector here, and plug it into the back of our TowPro switch, just like that. And then all we need to do to hide some of this cable is just grab one of our cable ties from our pack of cable ties and just cable tie it to the main loom, hiding it just like so. Alrighty, so once that's all done, all that we have left to do is just our earth wire. So we can grab a M6 bolt and go into this top bolt hole here. We don't go into this one because this is what is a bracket that holds the airbag in place. So we go to that top one to make it all nice and safe, and we can just screw that one into there. You may have picked up there might have been a little bit of a spark, but that's okay. That's just because the TowPro requires a minimal amount of current to kind of wake itself up, that kind of thing. So we can grab our socket and just give it a little tighten up just like so. And again, cable tying down the way to hide all our extra little bit of length there. And then once that earth's all connected up, we can just put all our plastics back in and you're ready to go. All right guys, hopefully your install went as easy as ours did. If you have any more questions, drop them in the comments below. If you want to see any more videos on our 250 series Prado, click up here, and if YouTube thinks you should watch this one.
Awesome, your Prado is now fully set up for towing. I hope Jack walked you through absolutely everything you needed to know. However, if you get stuck or you have any questions, pop them in the comments below, or you can get in touch with us through our tech support form. I'll pop the link in the description. For any of our other Prado 250 series products or installation videos, pop up here, there's a big playlist. Otherwise, YouTube thinks you should watch this one down here. Accelerate off-grid touring, powering your adventures.